Hi, I'm Lisa Washington, and this is my second video where I'm going to be talking about my experience with pay discrimination in the United States government. My first video was a letter that I read because I had written a letter to President Biden about my experience and to Vice President Kamala Harris and some attorneys. And I hadn't received any response, so I decided, that I should read it in a video, and I did receive response from that. I received a letter from President Biden, but I'm not going to read it because it didn't address any of my issues. And what my issues are is that I'm a Black nurse, and I was hired at the same time as a white nurse at the National Institutes of Health in the operating room. At the time of hire, I had 2 registered nurse years and 17 years of scrub experience, which was a requirement of the job. The white nurse had just 4 registered nurse years of experience in the operating room and very little scrub experience. The position was open because they heard about all of my experience, but yet it was still open for everyone to apply. So that's how the white nurse was able to apply at the same time as me. I didn't find out what her salary was until 2 years later when a coworker told me, because I had no idea that government employee salaries were on the internet, and the coworker told me where to go to find it, and that's what I did. I found out that she was making $10,000 more than me, and now at that time I had 4 registered nurse years plus my 17 years of scrub experience. So I went to my manager thinking that they would, see what was wrong, the discrepancies between our salaries, and change it, but I was wrong. I told them, I felt that I should have that salary too. Why can't I have that salary? And they had meetings and discussed it among themselves and decided that there was nothing wrong with her making $10,000 more than me. So I continued on and started, well, actually I was told by my manager that they were going to get back with me, and I thought that they were going to change it and fix it, but really they had decided not to. So I started getting retaliation from management after that. My supervisor was looking over things, but my manager was the one that really started harassing me. And so I decided that I better file a complaint because I was feeling that I was going to be fired, that it was just one day I was going to go in there and they were going to fire me. So that's when I started the EEOC process. And luckily for me, the EEOC office was not far from where my hospital was, where the hospital was. So I went there and in tears because I was going through so much and filed my EEOC complaint. I told the person that I was so afraid of them firing me, and she told me that while I was going through the EEOC process that they shouldn't be able to fire me. So I started the process, and around this time is when I also found a lawyer and paid an upfront amount of money. But because I was going through so much harassment at the job, I was calling that lawyer and emailing her with everything that was happening to me. So it didn't take very long for the money to run out. And that was probably about 6 weeks that it ran out. So I had to make a decision if I was going to be able to keep a lawyer or if I was going to let her go and just fight my case on my own. So that decision was made very easy because I decided that I could not afford to keep a lawyer, and so I had to fight my case on my own. So as the process went on, the retaliation did not stop. I made it to December 2012, and that's when the EEOC administrative judge sent orders to me that were to let me know how the process was going to continue, how I needed to file my information. It talked about a discovery, which I did not know what a discovery was. It just gave you rules. And then I found out that the government's lawyer also had to go through these rules. So it didn't make me feel any better, but, at least I knew, we were all pretty much on the same playing ground. I just didn't have a clue what was going on. It's like a deer caught in headlights with those orders, but God. So I continued asking questions to people, and miracles were happening. God was working things out. If you really want to know what I did, what I went through, please read my book, Faith Over Fear, a true story about learning how to trust God when all the odds are against you, and all the odds were truly against me then. So we continue with the EEOC process. I did get a discovery in, and some other things that I filed. It was around June of 2013 that the retaliation was just so great that I decided I couldn't continue working and keep my case going. So I decided to resign because I went to a lawyer that told me I could resign and keep my case going. So that's what I did for my peace of mind. And the EEOC process continued on until January of 2014. I'm still with the EEOC. And I received a phone call from someone that was telling me that my administrative judge at the EEOC was retiring, and that the person on the telephone was my new administrative judge, and that he was going to be taking over, and, everything was going to be, continuing with my case. So after that call, things started picking up. There were meetings with me, him, and the government's lawyer, and it just was continuing, where I had to give statements over the phone. Most of the meetings were over the phone. One day I was at home, and I just happened to be off, and something said, check your emails. So I was checking my emails, and I saw that the administrative judge and the government's lawyer was corresponding together, and they had me included in this email, and there was a question directed at me, about a date. What did I think? Was I available on that date for him to make this decision? And so I was grateful to God that I was home. So I responded and I said, well, I'm available on this date. And so he scheduled a date to make a decision. Well, I didn't know what they were doing, what this decision was. So I found a lawyer that I could go to and talk to about it. And she said to me that it was going to probably be a decision on summary judgment. And then she asked to see my summary judgment. And I told her that I didn't know, where is the summary judgment? I don't have one. No one has sent me a summary judgment. And so she told me that I needed to stop that judge from making a decision because I had not received a summary judgment from the government. So thank God I was able to stop that decision in time. So I finally, about a month, within probably 3 weeks or so, the government finally did send out that summary judgment. And around that time, God was still working miracles for me. There was a lawyer that took my case on a contingency basis, which meant that if I won, that's when he would be paid. So I didn't have to pay him anything up front. I was just grateful to God that he came at the right time when the summary judgment came, and I had no clue of what to do, and he helped me with it. And also, God was still working miracles, where God brought back to my remembrance that there was a surgical tech, just like me, with my 17 years of operating room scrub experience. There was a surgical tech that was going through nursing school when I was working at NIH, and they graduated from nursing school. So they were working at NIH as a surgical tech, but going through nursing school. And when they graduated, they were given a job right out of nursing school in the operating room at NIH. And this is very shocking because the rules are that you have to have 2 years of registered nurse experience to get a job in the operating room at NIH. So I'm so happy to have this information, and I told this to the lawyer, giving him all the information about this, and we got it into our summary judgment. And then the judge went out to make his decision. So I didn't know how long it was going to take. I thought maybe a couple of weeks, but I just knew I got all the information, all that I had, checked all my bases and boxes, checked all my boxes and everything. So 2 weeks went by. I was calling the lawyer about every week to see if the judge had made his ruling, and he would say, no, not yet. And then I started calling every month. It turned into every month. And he would say, not yet. And then a year went by, and I was still calling him every month, and he would say, not yet. And then as it was getting close to 2 years, I decided maybe I should get someone else eyes on this. Not saying I didn't trust the lawyer, but just to say that I really needed to make sure they weren't taking advantage of me. I couldn't believe that someone was taking this long to make a decision. So I went to then Senator Barbara Mikulski, who was my representative in Maryland at that time. And I went to her office and filed all the information to get her to open a case to look into my situation. And they worked really quickly. I got a letter in the mail stating that the EEOC judge was going to make his decision that year. And this was 2016, February of 2016 that I got this letter. So I was so excited because I just knew the longer that, I had heard that the longer someone stays out to make a decision, the more it's going to probably be in your favor. So I was so excited that I was going to be getting my answer that year. And then around August, the first week of August, I received my letter from the EEOC judge. But the date was about 3 weeks before that. So like July 18th, I think is when he wrote it or signed it. But they didn't send it out for 3 weeks later, which was very odd. So just like I promised, I'm going to read that letter, and I'm going to put on my glasses this time because the first time when I read the letter to President Biden's letter, I was stumbling a little bit because I secretly need glasses. So let's put the glasses on this time to read the letter. Okay. All right. And so I'm not going to identify the person in here, even though he does say the person's name. I will just just say that the white nurse. So let's read what he said. The complainant, which is me, the complainant failed to show how she is similarly situated to the white nurse. The white nurse has significant amounts of experience related to the job that the complainant, me, did not have. Moreover, the complainant, me, should have negotiated her salary at the time she was hired for the job. Therefore, the complainant has failed to state a claim of disparity treatment since the pay parameters were dissimilar. I have no idea what he said either. All I know is he ruled against me, and it hurt me so bad that I had to wait 2 years and about 3 months for this decision, when it seems to me that he could have made this decision in 2 days. But that's how I was treated at the EEOC. So anyway, my case went on from the EEOC to the federal court in Greenbelt, Maryland, where if you saw my first video, I told you what that ruling turned out to be, where I worked really hard to get all of my information into him. And they had a summary judgment too, and I was able to do my own summary judgment that time without a lawyer. And that federal judge ruled that the white nurse received a windfall. A windfall. Yes. Every time I hear it, I have to stop and breathe again. But that's what he ruled. And then I took my case from there to the appeals court, Fourth Circuit, and they just upheld his ruling. And from there, I got my case into the United States Supreme Court, and I worked really hard to get it there. And it went up to them twice, and they wouldn't hear my case. So they don't tell you exactly why they would not hear your case, but they did. The ruling was that they didn't accept it to hear it. So my fight continues. I just know what I went through was wrong. And I know that the equal pay for equal work law was the one law that I got a reaction from the government's lawyer when I said equal pay for equal work. And she said, no, that's only when it's between a man and a woman. So for us to have a law like that, and for it not to cover every situation, is just keeping us in this situation. I see no room, nowhere that we can change if we don't change the laws to make it for everyone. So my prayer is that this will be the last time that we're talking about this, that somehow someone will see this video as we celebrate July 9th, Black Women's Equal Pay Day. Let's all stand up, tell our stories, shout to the government that this is wrong, that we need better laws to help us. We need courts, we need judges, we need people that are going to stand up and uphold the law for us. What happened to me should never happen to anyone else. So, thank you so much for looking at my video. Thank you for taking the journey with me. However painful it is for me to go back to it, it's necessary to tell this story. And I pray that somehow you might read my book so that you can really know what I went through. Just how cruel people can be when you try to stand up for your rights. Thank you. God bless you and your families.